Christmas miracle. Billionaire impregnates homeless woman, faces public ridicule. But years later, the shocking truth is revealed. A silent snowfall blanketed the deserted streets of London on Christmas Eve. White flakes danced under the glow of streetlights, painting a scene of potential magic, marred only by the biting wind that swept across Regent Street. It was against this backdrop that two lives, separated by a vast social chasm, were about to collide in an irreversible way. Amelia clutched her threadbare coat tighter, shivering uncontrollably. At 28, her life was a shadow of her former dreams. Auburn curls escaped from a faded beanie, framing a face that, despite the grime and exhaustion, still held traces of resilient beauty. Her green eyes, once bright with hope, were now dulled by the harsh realities of the streets. "Just one more night," she murmured to herself, her teeth chattering. Tomorrow will be different." It was the same promise she made every night for months, ever since she'd lost everything. A few blocks away, William Cavendish, 45, sighed heavily in his office atop a gleaming skyscraper. The bluish glow of multiple monitors illuminated his angular face, highlighting the lines of worry etched on his forehead. As CEO of Cavendish Industries, he was at the pinnacle of financial success, yet something crucial eluded him. "Another Christmas alone," he mused, swiveling absently in his leather chair. His gaze drifted to the photograph on his desk. Him and Elizabeth, his sister, smiling on a distant beach. It was the perfect image of familial bliss for the magazines, but William knew it was all a facade. A soft ping from his computer brought him back to reality. Another multi-million-dollar deal closed. More zeros added to his already overflowing bank account. But to what end? The question echoed in his mind, incessant as the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. On an impulse, William stood up. "Enough," he said aloud, surprising himself. He grabbed his cashmere coat and strode out of the office, ignoring the insistent ringing of his mobile. The streets were nearly empty as he emerged from the building. The icy wind hit him like a slap, a stark change from the controlled environment of his office. William began to walk aimlessly, his footsteps echoing on the pavement. That's when he saw her, Amelia huddled in a doorway, struggling to keep her eyes open. The intense cold was making her drowsy, a danger she knew all too well. Her eyelids felt heavy, and she knew that if she fell asleep now, she might not wake up. William stopped, stunned. In all his years traversing these streets, he'd never truly seen the homeless. They were always indistinct figures, easy to ignore, but something about this auburn-haired woman, shivering violently in the cold, touched him in a way he couldn't explain. "Madam," he called out, hesitant. "Are you all right?" Amelia looked up, suspicious. Her experiences on the streets had taught her to be wary of strangers, especially well-dressed men. "I am fine," she stammered, her teeth chattering. William took a step closer, and then another. Something in Amelia's eyes prevented him from simply walking away. "You don't look fine," he insisted. "Let me help. There's a shelter not far from here." Amelia tried to stand, determined to show that she was fine, that she didn't need his pity, but her legs, numb with cold, gave way. She stumbled, her vision blurring at the edges. Without thinking, William lunged forward, catching her before she fell. The contact surprised him. She was icy cold, far too light in his arms. For a moment, their eyes met. Green met brown, and something indefinable passed between them. I can't," Amelia murmured, struggling to maintain consciousness. "Shh, it's all right," William reassured her, making a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I'll take care of you." As the snow continued to fall, William carried Amelia towards his chauffeured Bentley parked nearby. The driver, accustomed to discretion, didn't ask questions as his employer entered the car with an unconscious woman in his arms. "To the manor, and quickly," William ordered, his voice tight with concern. As the car glided through the London streets, William looked down at the woman in his arms. Who was she? What had brought her to the streets? And why did he care so much? Little did he know that this Christmas Eve was not just the beginning of a new journey, but the first chapter in a story that would shock everyone. A story of redemption, love, and the extraordinary human capacity to overcome adversity. As the Bentley pulled away, leaving the city lights behind, a question hung in the air. What did fate hold in store for William Cavendish and Amelia Winters? The answer, as they would soon discover, was more surprising and transformative than either of them could have imagined. The soft purr of the Bentley's engine was the only sound that broke the tense silence within the vehicle. William Cavendish, the billionaire CEO of Cavendish Industries, stared intently at the unconscious woman in his arms, his expression a mixture of concern and fascination. Amelia Winters, still oblivious to her surroundings, shivered slightly, her body struggling to regain warmth after hours exposed to London's brutal cold. When the Bentley finally stopped in front of the imposing Cavendish Manor, William didn't wait for the driver to open the door. With a surprising gentleness for a man more accustomed to handling contracts than people, he carried Amelia inside. "Mr. Cavendish," exclaimed Mrs. Higgins, the middle-aged housekeeper, her eyes wide with shock at the sight of her employer carrying a woman clearly in dire straits. Who is—" "Later, Mrs. Higgins," William interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind. "I need hot towels, dry clothes, and call Dr. Davies immediately." As Mrs. Higgins hurried to fulfill his requests, William carried Amelia to one of the guest rooms on the ground floor. Gently, he laid her on the king-size bed, the contrast between the room's opulence and Amelia's sorry state not lost on him. The next few minutes were a flurry of activity. Dr. Davies, the Cavendish family's private physician, arrived in record time, likely pulled away from some Christmas Eve celebration. He examined Amelia with professional efficiency while William waited anxiously in the corner of the room. "She'll be all right, Mr. Cavendish," the doctor finally announced, putting away his instruments. "Mild hypothermia, malnourished, exhausted. Nothing that good care can't fix, but, William pressed, a furrow of worry creasing his brow. Dr. Davies hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "She'll need more than just physical care. The streets, well, they leave scars we can't see." William nodded gravely, his eyes never leaving Amelia's sleeping face. "Thank you, Doctor. Please send me a detailed report and a treatment plan." After the doctor's departure, William found himself alone with Amelia. He pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest, now clad in borrowed silk pajamas. A surreal sight. The hours ticked by. The manor was silent, the distant sounds of the city's Christmas celebrations barely reaching his ears. William, usually a man of action, found himself in a state of deep reflection. What had possessed him to bring this stranger into his home? What would he do when she woke up? It was nearly dawn when Amelia finally stirred. Her green eyes fluttered open, confused and disoriented. For a moment she lay still, trying to process the unfamiliar, luxurious surroundings. Where am I?" Her voice was raspy, a frightened whisper. William leaned forward, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "You're safe," he said softly. "My name is William. I found you on the street last night. You collapsed from the cold." Amelia's eyes widened with the memory, and she tried to sit up abruptly, only to be overcome by a wave of dizziness. William quickly grabbed a glass of water from the bedside table. "Slowly," he advised, helping her drink. "The doctor said you need to rest." Amelia drank greedily, her eyes never leaving William's face. When she finished, she studied him with a mixture of gratitude and suspicion. "Why did you help me?" The question caught William off guard. It was a simple question, yet he realized he didn't have a simple answer. I couldn't leave you there," he finally replied, his voice low. "Not on that night. Not on any night." A silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken words and unasked questions. It was Amelia who finally broke it. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't stay. I need to—" "You don't need to go anywhere," William interrupted, surprised by the force in his own voice. "For at least not until you're fully recovered." Amelia looked at him, her eyes filled with an emotion William couldn't quite decipher. Fear, hope, resignation. "You don't know me," she said slowly. "You don't know anything about me." "Then tell me," William replied, leaning forward. "Who are you, Amelia Winters?" Surprise flickered across her face at the sound of her name. "How did you—" "Your ID," William explained. "It was in your coat pocket." Amelia nodded slowly, her fingers nervously toying with the edge of the silk sheet. For a long moment, she remained silent, as if debating internally how much to reveal. "I used to be someone," she finally said, her voice heavy with a sadness that made William's heart ache. "I had a job, a flat, dreams. But then, everything fell apart. A series of bad decisions, a bit of bad luck, and, well, you saw where I ended up?" William listened quietly, absorbing every word. There was something about Amelia's story that resonated deeply with him, even though their circumstances couldn't be more different. "Amelia," he said softly, "I want to help, not out of pity or charity, but because I think maybe we can help each other." Amelia looked at him skeptically. "How could someone like me possibly help someone like you?" William smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his tired face. "You already are. You've made me see the world differently, even if only for one night." In that moment, something shifted between them. A connection, fragile but undeniable, began to form. Amelia visibly relaxed, allowing herself to sink into the soft pillows. "All right," she said finally. "I'll stay. For now." William nodded, feeling a sense of relief he hadn't realized he was seeking. "Rest now," he said, getting up. "We'll talk more when you're feeling better." As he reached the door, Amelia's voice stopped him. "So, William?" He turned back, an eyebrow raised in question. "Merry Christmas," she said softly. William smiled, feeling something stir within him that had long lain dormant. "Merry Christmas, Amelia." As he closed the door behind him, William had no idea that this simple exchange of words was just the beginning. Fate had much bigger plans for William Cavendish and Amelia Winters, plans that would shock the world and change their lives forever. Outside the manor, the snow continued to fall softly, blanketing the city in a white veil of possibilities. And within those opulent walls, two lonely souls were embarking on a journey neither could have foreseen. Amelia stared at the pregnancy test in her hands, the small plus sign mocking her. Her hands trembled, and she felt the world tilting on its axis. How could this have happened? One night, a single night of vulnerability and shared comfort with William Cavendish, and now, taking a deep breath, Amelia knew what she had to do. She had to tell William. In the Cavendish manor, William was in his study, immersed in paperwork, when he heard a hesitant knock on the door. "Come in," he called, looking up to see Amelia enter, pale and visibly nervous. "Amelia, is everything all right?" Amelia closed the door behind her, her green eyes meeting his with a mixture of fear and determination. "William, we need to talk." He stood up immediately, concern etched on his face. "What is it?" Amelia began, her voice failing. She closed her eyes, gathering her courage. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. William stood frozen, his eyes wide with shock. "Pregnant?" he finally managed to say. "Are you sure?" Amelia nodded, showing him the test. "I took 3 different tests, all positive." William leaned against his desk, the reality of the situation beginning to sink in. "My God," he murmured. "This is unexpected." "I know this complicates everything," Amelia said quickly. "I don't expect anything from you, William. I just thought you should know." William looked at her, surprised. "Amelia, no, we're in this together. I'm not going to abandon you." Before Amelia could respond, the study door burst open. Elizabeth Cavendish, William's sister, stormed in, her blue eyes blazing with anger. "William, have you seen this?" she demanded, throwing a gossip magazine onto the desk. On the cover, a blurry photo of William and Amelia entering the manor, with the sensational headline, "Billionaire Cavendish and Mystery Woman, a Scandalous Romance." William's face paled visibly. "How did they—" Elizabeth laughed humorlessly. "Oh, this is nothing. Wait until they find out about the baby." Amelia froze. "How do you know—" "Please," Elizabeth scoffed, looking at Amelia with disdain. "Walls have ears in this house, especially when it comes to potential scandals." William stepped protectively in front of Amelia. "Elizabeth, this is none of your business." "None of my business?" Elizabeth practically shrieked. "This affects the entire Cavendish family, William. Our reputation, our stock, everything." As the siblings argued, William's phone began to ring incessantly. Emails poured in, text messages popped up. The news was spreading like wildfire. "Mr. Cavendish," his assistant's voice came over the intercom, "the press is at the gate. They're demanding a comment on your secret romance." William cursed under his breath, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "This is getting out of control." Elizabeth crossed her arms, a malicious smile playing on her lips. "Well, little brother, it seems your little charity project has just turned into a PR nightmare." Amelia, feeling increasingly out of place and guilty, took a step towards the door. Maybe I should just leave." "No," William exclaimed, grabbing her hand. "Amelia, please, don't let this drive you away." Elizabeth rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, this is touching. The billionaire and the homeless woman. A love story for the ages." "Enough, Elizabeth," William growled, his patience finally snapping. "If you can't be helpful, get out." At that moment, William's phone buzzed with a message. It was from his best friend, George. "Mate, you're all over the papers." "What's going on?" William looked at Amelia, then at Elizabeth, and finally at the magazine on his desk. The reality of the situation hit him like a ton of bricks. There was no turning back now. The whole world would soon know. "Amelia," he said softly, ignoring Elizabeth's protests, "I know this isn't what you wanted. It's not what either of us wanted. But we're in this together now, I promise. I'll do everything I can to protect you and the baby." Amelia looked at him, tears welling up in her eyes. "William, you don't have to." "I want to," he interrupted gently. "We'll face this together," Elizabeth scoffed, heading for the door. "You two are insane. Don't say I didn't warn you when this all comes crashing down." After Elizabeth left, William and Amelia stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their new reality settling upon them. "What do we do now?" Amelia asked quietly. William took a deep breath, a plan already forming in his mind. "Now, we take control of the narrative. We're going to give them a story they'll never forget." As chaos swirled around them, with reporters clamoring at the gates and phones ringing incessantly, William and Amelia looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. The world might laugh and scoff now, but they had no idea what was coming. This wasn't just a story of scandal and gossip. It was the beginning of something much bigger, something that would shock everyone in the years to come. And so, hand in hand, William and Amelia prepared to face the storm, unaware that they were about to rewrite not only their own stories, but challenge society's very notions of class, love, and redemption. The sun had barely risen when William Cavendish called an emergency meeting in his office. Seated at his imposing mahogany desk, he faced his PR team and lawyers, all wearing tense expressions and sporting pronounced dark circles under their eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," William began, his voice firm, "the situation is delicate but not irredeemable. I will be taking full responsibility for Amelia and the baby." A murmur rippled through the room. Sandra, his head of PR, cleared her throat. "Mr. Cavendish, perhaps we should consider other options. A discreet financial settlement, perhaps." William slammed his hand on the table, silencing the room. "No, Amelia is not a problem to be solved. She is the mother of my child." Across the manor, Amelia was curled up in her bed, the distant sounds of the meeting reaching her. Her stomach churned, and not just from the pregnancy. Guilt and anxiety gnawed at her. A soft knock on the door broke through her thoughts. Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, entered with a tray. "I thought you might like some tea, dear," she said kindly. Amelia managed a weak smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Higgins. You're very kind." Mrs. Higgins placed the tray on the bedside table and sat on the edge of the bed. "Don't let them intimidate you, Amelia. Mr. Cavendish is a good man. He'll do the right thing," Amelia sighed, picking up the teacup. "That's the problem, Mrs. Higgins. What if the right thing is for me to leave? I don't want to ruin his life." Mrs. Higgins took Amelia's hand, surprising her with the affectionate gesture. "Dear, sometimes life gives us unexpected gifts. Don't reject them out of fear." Meanwhile, downstairs, Elizabeth Cavendish paced like a caged tiger, her phone glued to her ear. "Richard, you need to help me," she whispered urgently. "This girl is going to ruin everything. The family's reputation, the company's stock. We need to do something." On the other end of the line, Richard Blackwood, a business rival and Elizabeth's former boyfriend, chuckled softly. "Lizzie, darling, calm down. This might be just the opportunity we've been waiting for." Elizabeth smiled slyly. "What do you have in mind?" Hours later, William finally came upstairs to see Amelia. He found her standing by the window, gazing out at the gardens below. "Amelia," he called softly. She turned, her eyes red and swollen. "William, I'm so sorry for all of this." William crossed the room in a few strides, taking her hands in his. "Don't apologize. We're both responsible for this." Amelia laughed humorlessly. "Responsible? William, look at us. You're William Cavendish, billionaire, philanthropist. I'm nobody. A homeless woman you found on the street." "No," William said firmly. "You're Amelia Winters. You're strong, resilient, and like it or not, you're the mother of my child. I want to be here for both of you." Amelia felt tears escaping. "But your life, your reputation." William gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "Amelia, before I met you, I had everything, but I had nothing. Now I have a purpose." The moment was interrupted by the sound of shattering glass downstairs, followed by shouting. William and Amelia rushed to see what was happening. In the living room, they found Elizabeth, clearly intoxicated, amidst the shards of an expensive vase. "Oh, hello, Mummy and Daddy," she sneered when she saw them. "Come to see the circus." William stepped forward, his voice dangerously low. "Elizabeth, enough, you're out of control." Elizabeth laughed hysterically. "Me? Out of control? Look at you, William, throwing everything away for a... Be careful what you say," William warned. Amelia, sensing the escalating tension, intervened. "Please, stop. This isn't helping anyone." Elizabeth turned on her, her eyes blazing with hatred. This is all your fault. You ruined everything." Before anyone could react, Elizabeth lunged at Amelia. William quickly stepped between them, restraining his sister. "Get out of my house," he growled. "Now." As security escorted a screaming Elizabeth out, Amelia felt the world spin. She stumbled, and William caught her before she fell. Amelia, are you all right?" The last thing Amelia saw before she fainted was William's worried face. Hours later, Amelia awoke in a hospital room. William sat beside her, holding her hand. "The baby," she murmured. "Is fine," William assured her. "You're both fine. It was just the stress." Amelia closed her eyes, relieved. When she opened them again, she saw a new determination in William's gaze. "Amelia," he said softly, "I know you have doubts. I know you're scared. But I want you to know I'm fully committed to you and this baby. Not because I feel obligated, but because I want to. Because somehow, in such a short time, you've become the most important thing in my life." Amelia felt tears welling up again. "William, the world out there, they're going to destroy us." William smiled, a smile filled with confidence and affection. "Let them laugh, let them speculate. We know the truth. And one day they'll all see it too." As the sun set over the city, casting a golden glow through the hospital window, Amelia finally allowed herself to believe. To believe that maybe, just maybe, this improbable story could have a happy ending. What she didn't know was that this was just the beginning. The real test and the real shock to the world was yet to come. Morning sunlight filtered through the silk curtains, illuminating Amelia's face as she gazed out at the sprawling Cavendish estate. 3 months had passed since the initial scandal, and she still felt like an intruder in this world of opulence. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" William's voice startled her. He joined her at the window, his eyes following hers to the manicured gardens below. Amelia nodded, unable to deny the beauty of the place. "It is, but William, I can't accept this. It's too much." William smiled gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Amelia, please, it's the least I can do. Think of the baby." The mention of the baby made Amelia instinctively touch her slightly rounded belly. After weeks of internal debate and countless conversations with William, she had finally agreed to move into one of the smaller Cavendish properties, a cottage that was still larger than any place she had ever lived. "All right," she sighed, relenting. "But on one condition. I want to do something useful. I can't just sit here being kept." William's eyes lit up. "Of course. In fact, I have an idea. How about you take a look at Cavendish Industries' sustainability projects? Maybe you can bring a fresh perspective." Amelia smiled, grateful for the opportunity. Little did she know that this simple suggestion would set in motion a series of events that would transform not only her life, but the future of Cavendish Industries as well. Meanwhile, back in the heart of London, William was facing a particularly difficult day at the office. Thinly veiled jokes and sideways glances followed him down the hallways. "Hey, Cavendish," one of the executives called out as William passed. "Heard you're expanding into social services now, rescuing damsels in distress, one girl at a time, eh?" Muffled laughter echoed down the corridor. William clenched his fists, containing his anger. He knew that reacting would only make things worse. In his office, his assistant, Sarah, awaited him with a worried expression. "Mr. Cavendish, the stock dropped 2% this morning. The board is demanding an emergency meeting." William sighed, rubbing his temples. "Schedule it for tomorrow, Sarah. And please, prepare a full report on our sustainability projects. I have a feeling we're going to need it." While William battled the corporate world, Amelia was finding a new purpose. Immersed in Cavendish Industries' sustainability projects, she discovered a passion and a talent she never knew she possessed. One day, while reviewing some designs for a new eco-friendly building, Amelia had an epiphany. Grabbing a pencil, she began to sketch furiously, her ideas flowing like never before. Hours later, William found her asleep over a pile of drawings. Curious, he examined the sketches and was astonished. Amelia's designs weren't just beautiful, they were revolutionary in their approach to sustainability and energy efficiency. "Amelia," he whispered, gently waking her. "Joy, this is incredible." She blinked sleepily, then blushed as she realized what he was looking at. "Oh, it's just some doodles." "Doodles?" William chuckled incredulously. "Amelia, this could change our entire sustainable design department." William's enthusiasm was contagious, and Amelia couldn't help but smile. For the first time in months, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere, that she had something valuable to offer. But not everyone was happy with the developments in William and Amelia's lives. At an exclusive restaurant in the city centre, Elizabeth Cavendish was meeting with Maxwell Blackwood, CEO of the rival Blackwood Industries, and her former boyfriend. "So," Maxwell smirked over his glass of wine, "I hear your brother is playing house with his new acquisition." Elizabeth rolled her eyes. "It's disgusting, Max. He's throwing everything away because of this girl." Maxwell leaned forward, his eyes glinting with interest. "And the baby? Are you sure it's his?" "Who cares?" Elizabeth scoffed. "Fair, the damage is already done. The stock is falling. Investors are nervous. Sounds like Cavendish Industries is ripe for a hostile takeover," Maxwell mused, a predatory smile forming on his lips. Elizabeth hesitated for a moment. Undermining her brother was one thing, but handing the family business over to her biggest rival. But then she remembered the humiliation, the way William had chosen Amelia over her, and her resolve hardened. "What do you have in mind, Max?" While conspiracies brewed and the corporate world simmered, Amelia and William found themselves in a bubble of growing happiness. As Amelia's belly grew, so did the bond between them. One evening, sitting in the garden watching the sunset, Amelia shared her fears. "What if I'm not a good mother, William? What if all this luxury and privilege spoils our child?" William took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Amelia, you'll be an amazing mother. And as for the privilege, well, that's why our child has you. To remind them of what truly matters in life." Amelia smiled, tears of gratitude glistening in her eyes. "We're really doing this, aren't we? Building a family." "Yes," William replied softly, leaning in to kiss her. "And it's going to be the greatest adventure of our lives." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Amelia and William felt like they were on the cusp of something extraordinary. The coming months would bring challenges, to be sure, but also the promise of a bright future. What they didn't know was that as they prepared to welcome a new life into the world, forces were at play, threatening to destroy everything they had built. The real battle was just beginning, and the world wasn't prepared for the shock that was yet to come. The shrill cry of a newborn baby echoed through the halls of London's most exclusive private hospital. It was the sound that marked the beginning of a new era, not just for Amelia and William, but for the entire world that watched them with eager and judgmental eyes. Their daughter, Chloe, the much-anticipated heiress to the Cavendish fortune, had arrived on a spring morning, bringing with her a whirlwind of emotions and change. Amelia, exhausted after hours of labor, held tiny Chloe in her trembling arms. Her eyes, normally bright and confident, now reflected a mixture of intense love and a profound awe she could scarcely comprehend. William, standing beside the bed, gazed at his daughter with an expression of wonder and bewilderment, as if unsure how to react to this new role of fatherhood. As the Cavendish family experienced their first moments as a trio, the world outside spun into a frenzy of speculation and gossip. News of Chloe's birth spread like wildfire, and within hours, the global media was in a state of collective hysteria. Sensational headlines splashed across the covers of tabloids and news websites. Cavendish heiress born, the future of tech has a new face. Amelia Cavendish gives birth. The weight of the dynasty rests on a baby. William Cavendish, from playboy to father, can he change? Speculation ranged from the baby's exact weight and measurements to absurd predictions about her future in the tech industry. In the weeks that followed, Amelia and William found themselves at the epicenter of a media hurricane. Paparazzi camped outside their manor. Drones buzzed overhead, hoping to capture the first glimpse of baby Chloe, and sources close to the family sold alleged insider information to tabloids hungry for any scrap of gossip. Amelia, still recovering physically from childbirth and battling an overwhelming wave of emotions, found herself trapped in an internal struggle. On one hand, there was the unconditional love she felt for Chloe, a feeling so intense it sometimes frightened her. On the other, an insidious darkness began to creep into her thoughts, fueled by exhaustion, the crushing expectations, and the relentless public scrutiny. Postpartum depression settled in silently, like a thief in the night, stealing moments of joy that Amelia felt she should be experiencing. She would find herself staring at Chloe, questioning her ability to be a good mother, fearing that her own demons might somehow taint her daughter's purity. The social stigma surrounding mental health, especially in the high-pressure world the Cavendishes inhabited, weighed on Amelia like an anchor. She struggled to maintain appearances, smiling for the cameras on the rare occasions she left the house, but inside she was crumbling. William, in turn, faced his own existential crisis. Chloe's birth had triggered a series of questions he had never dared to ask before. Looking at his daughter, so small and vulnerable, he wondered what kind of example he was setting. His life of excess, endless parties, and superficial relationships suddenly seemed empty and meaningless. One night, while holding Chloe in his arms, trying to soothe her during a crying spell, William had an epiphany. He wanted to be more than just the playboy heir to the Cavendish fortune. He wanted to be a father Chloe could be proud of, a man who made a difference in the world. This realization, however, brought with it a whirlwind of doubts and insecurities. William didn't know how to change, how to reinvent himself in the eyes of a world that knew him only as the irresponsible son of Edward Cavendish. He feared it was too late, that the damage to his reputation was irreparable. Meanwhile, the world continued to spin around them, relentless in its curiosity and judgment. Every move the family made was analyzed, every decision scrutinized. The pressure was immense, and both Amelia and William felt the weight of expectations crushing their shoulders. The media, in its insatiable quest for sensational stories, didn't spare the couple from cruel criticism. Articles questioned Amelia's ability to balance motherhood with her career in sustainable fashion, speculating on how long it would take her to get her body back. Others wondered if William was truly committed to fatherhood or if he would soon revert to his old ways. Amidst this maelstrom, Amelia and William struggled to find a balance. They tried to shield Chloe from the outside chaos, creating a cocoon of love and normalcy within their manor, but the reality of their public lives always found a way to seep in. Determined to overcome her depression without the world's knowledge, Amelia sought discreet help from a therapist. The sessions were conducted under the strictest confidentiality, with the therapist arriving at the manor disguised as a personal trainer. Slowly, she began to process her feelings, to understand that her struggle wasn't a sign of weakness, but a courageous battle against an invisible enemy. William, in turn, began to make subtle changes in his life. He curtailed his appearances at parties, started taking a more active interest in the family business, and even considered initiating philanthropic projects. However, each step towards change was met with skepticism by the public, who eagerly awaited any sign of a relapse. As the months passed, Amelia and William learned to navigate their new realities. They discovered a strength they didn't know they possessed, uniting as never before to protect their small family. Chloe grew, oblivious to the turmoil her arrival had caused, her innocent smile serving as a constant reminder of what truly mattered. In the fashion world, Amelia's temporary absence created a void that was quickly filled by new talents and trends. Some predicted the end of her career, while others speculated about a triumphant return. Amelia, however, was focused on her internal battle, determined to emerge stronger and more authentic than ever. William's transformation, though slow and sometimes faltering, began to attract attention. His rare public appearances were now marked by an air of seriousness and purpose. He started to engage with social causes, using his influence to draw attention to issues he had previously ignored. As Chloe's first birthday approached, Amelia and William found themselves at a turning point. They were no longer just the glamorous heirs to a fashion empire, but parents, partners, and individuals searching for meaning in a world that had defined them for so long. Chloe's birth had indeed marked the beginning of a new era, not just for the Cavendish family, but for all those who observed them. It was an era of vulnerability, of open challenges, and a search for authenticity in a world obsessed with appearances. As the sun set over London, bathing the Cavendish manor in hues of gold and rose, Amelia and William sat in Chloe's nursery. Watching their daughter sleep peacefully, they exchanged a look of mutual understanding. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with obstacles and judgments, but for the first time in a long time, they felt prepared to face whatever came their way. Together, the new era had begun, and with it, the promise of redemption, growth, and above all, love. The world might continue to watch and judge, but within those walls, a family was growing stronger, ready to rewrite its own story. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains of Amelia's makeshift office, illuminating a table covered with sketches and samples of sustainable fabrics. A year had passed since Chloe's birth, and with it, a remarkable transformation had taken place in the lives of the Cavendishes. Amelia, with Chloe balanced on her hip, examined a prototype handbag made from recycled materials. Her face, once etched with anxiety and uncertainty, now glowed with newfound determination. "What do you think, little one?" she murmured to Chloe, who gurgled happily in response, her tiny fingers clutching the innovative fabric. The phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was Sarah, William's assistant. "Mrs. Cavendish, Mr. Cavendish asked me to remind you about the picnic this afternoon in the park." Amelia smiled, still not quite used to being called Mrs. Cavendish. "Thank you, Sarah. Tell him we haven't forgotten." Hanging up, Amelia glanced at the clock. She had just an hour before she needed to get ready for the picnic, a tradition William had surprisingly initiated a few months prior. Amelia's small eco-friendly design business, Eco Chic, was slowly gaining recognition in the world of sustainable fashion. What had begun as a project to occupy her mind during the lonely postpartum days had blossomed into a passion and, potentially, a thriving business. Meanwhile, at Cavendish Industries, William was on a video conference, discussing the latest developments in a clean energy project. His hair, once perfectly coiffed, was slightly disheveled, and a suspicious smear of carrot puree stained his silk tie, telltale signs of a hectic morning with Chloe before heading to the office. "Gentlemen," he concluded the meeting. "I want this project to be our top priority. The future of Cavendish Industries lies in sustainability." As soon as the screen went blank, William leaned back in his chair, a tired but satisfied smile on his face. His gaze drifted to the photo on his desk, him, Amelia, and Chloe on a day out in the park. Who would have thought that the notorious playboy would transform into a devoted father and a champion of sustainability? Across town, in an exclusive restaurant, Elizabeth Cavendish met with Maxwell Blackwood, their faces close in hushed conversation. "Last quarter's results were surprisingly good," Maxwell grumbled, flipping through a report. "Your brother is doing better than we anticipated." Elizabeth frowned, taking a sip of her martini. "Don't worry, Max. William may be playing it well now, but I know his weakness." "And what would that be?" Maxwell asked, an eyebrow arched. "His precious family." Elizabeth smiled maliciously. "He'd give up everything to protect them. And that's where we'll strike." Back at the park, Amelia spread a checkered blanket under a shady tree, Chloe crawling happily on the grass. William arrived moments later, his tie loosened and his jacket slung over his shoulder. "Sorry I'm late," he smiled, bending down to pick up Chloe, who squealed with delight at the sight of her father. The meeting ran a bit long. Amelia watched, still amazed, as William played with Chloe, making silly faces and noises that sent the little girl into fits of giggles. Who was this man? And what had he done with the William she had met just over a year ago? "How was your day?" William asked, sitting beside Amelia and settling Chloe on his lap. "Productive," Amelia smiled. "I think I finally perfected that algae-based fabric. It could be a game-changer for eco-chic." William beamed at her with evident pride. "I knew you could do it. You're brilliant, Amelia." As the small family enjoyed their picnic, they were observed from a distance by other park-goers. Some still whispered and pointed, the gossip about the billionaire and the homeless woman still fresh in their minds. But others watched with a different kind of curiosity, noting the change in the once notorious playboy. "Did you see Cavendish Industries' latest project?" one woman murmured to her friend. "They're really serious about this sustainability thing." "And his wife," her friend replied. "I hear her eco-fashion brand is making waves in the industry." Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the narrative was beginning to shift. Back in William's office, his assistant Sarah entered with a stack of mail. "Mr. Cavendish, an invitation arrived for the annual sustainability gala. We usually decline, but..." William picked up the invitation, an idea forming in his mind. "Sarah, RSVP, and see if we can get a slot for eco-chic to showcase some designs." Sarah blinked in surprise, but nodded. "Yes, sir." That evening, after Chloe had been put to bed, Amelia found William in his home office, surrounded by papers. "William," she called softly, "is everything all right?" He looked up, a determined glint in his eyes. "Amelia, I think it's time we showed the world who we really are." Amelia sat beside him, curious. "Say, what do you mean?" William explained about the gala, his idea to feature eco-chic, and how this could be the start of a new era for both of them. "But what if they laugh?" Amelia asked, the old insecurity briefly surfacing. William took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Then we'll laugh with them, and then we'll amaze them. Amelia, look how much we've already accomplished in a year. Imagine what we can do if we really put our minds to it." Amelia felt a surge of emotion coursing through her. She saw in William not just the father of her child, or the billionaire who had rescued her, but a partner, an equal. "Okay," she smiled, tears of determination glistening in her eyes. "Let's show them." As the couple planned their next move, unaware of the conspiracies being hatched against them, one thing was clear: the Cavendishes were ready to take their first steps towards a future that no one could have predicted. Society might continue to chuckle for now, but the laughter would soon turn to astonishment. Because Amelia and William Cavendish were about to rewrite not only their own stories, but potentially the future of industry and philanthropy. And in her crib, sleeping peacefully, little Chloe, oblivious to the turmoil and transformations around her, dreamt of the bright world her parents were determined to create for her. Chapter 8. Growing Against the Odds. The sound of children's laughter echoed through the halls of Cavendish Manor, mingling with the low hum of an impromptu business meeting in the living room. 3 years had passed since Chloe's birth, and the life of the Cavendish family had transformed in ways no one could have foreseen. Amelia, now a respected figure in the world of sustainable fashion, gestured animatedly as she presented her latest collection to a group of investors. Her brand, EcoChic, was no longer just a small business, but a growing force in the industry, challenging fashion giants with its innovations in eco-friendly materials and ethical practices. As you can see, Amelia explained, showcasing a stunning dress made entirely from recycled materials, sustainability doesn't mean sacrificing style or quality. The investors murmured their approval, clearly impressed. One of them, a middle-aged woman with a sharp gaze, leaned forward. "Mrs. Cavendish, your vision is revolutionary. How have you achieved so much in such a short time?" Amelia smiled, her gaze momentarily drifting to a family photo on the wall. "Let's just say I had excellent motivation to create a better future." Meanwhile, in the back garden, William played with Chloe, now a vibrant and curious 3-year-old. Watching them together was to witness a remarkable transformation. The once workaholic William Cavendish now prioritized time with his daughter above all else. "Daddy," Chloe asked, her large blue eyes filled with curiosity, "why are butterflies different colors?" William smiled, marveling at his daughter's inquisitive mind. "Well, sweetheart, it has to do with evolution and adaptation. You see, each color helps butterflies in different ways." As he explained, simplifying complex concepts for a 3-year-old to understand, William couldn't help but reflect on how much his life had changed. He had been gradually stepping back from the day-to-day operations of Cavendish Industries, delegating more responsibilities and focusing on projects that truly ignited his passion, primarily those related to sustainability and social impact. This shift hadn't gone unnoticed by the corporate world. Rumors swirled in the corridors of power, whispers that William Cavendish was squandering fee Mordic and the family fortune on frivolous social projects. "Did you hear?" one executive muttered to another during a business lunch. "Cavendish poured another 50 million into a clean energy project in Africa. He's lost his mind." His companion shook his head, incredulous. "First that whole thing with the homeless girl. Now this. The board must be furious." What these critics failed to realize was that under William's leadership, Cavendish Industries was quietly positioning itself at the forefront of sustainable innovation. His investments, while seen as extravagant by some, were creating ripples of change across entire industries. Back at the manor, Amelia's meeting had concluded successfully. She joined William and Chloe in the garden, her face beaming with pride and accomplishment. "How did it go, Mummy?" Chloe asked, running to hug Amelia. "It was wonderful, my love," Amelia replied, scooping her daughter into her arms. "And what have you and Daddy been up to?" "Learning about butterflies," Chloe exclaimed enthusiastically. "Did you know their wings have tiny scales that reflect light in different ways?" Amelia looked at William, impressed. "Wow, that's quite advanced for a 3-year-old." William shrugged, a shy smile on his face. She asked, "I just explained." Chloe's extraordinary intelligence and compassion were becoming increasingly evident. Weeks earlier, during a visit to one of William's social projects, she had surprised everyone by approaching a shy child at a shelter, sharing her favorite toy and making an instant friend. "Tais, she has your heart," William had murmured to Amelia on that occasion, his eyes shining with pride. Now, as the family strolled back towards the house, William couldn't help but think about the future. His social projects, though criticized by some, were making a real difference. Amelia's eco-chic was redefining the fashion industry. And Chloe seemed destined to surpass them both. That evening, after Chloe had been tucked into bed, Amelia found William in his study, poring over some reports. "Penny, for your thoughts," she asked softly, wrapping her arms around him from behind. William sighed, leaning back into her embrace. "Just thinking about how much we've changed." "How much the world has changed? Did you know Cavendish Industries' stock actually went up 15% this quarter?" Amelia smiled, not surprised. "It seems your vision is paying off." "Our vision," William corrected, turning to face her. "None of this would have been possible without you, Amelia. You showed me a world I didn't even know existed." Amelia felt tears prickling her eyes. "We showed each other, and now we're showing the world." As the couple shared a moment of quiet contemplation, not far away, in a plush city centre office, Elizabeth Cavendish typed furiously on her laptop. On the screen, sensational headlines about William's reckless spending and Amelia's overblown ambitions. "Enjoy it while you can," she muttered to herself, a cold smile playing on her lips. "The empire you think you've built is about to crumble." But back at Cavendish Manor, oblivious to the machinations against them, William and Amelia embraced, strengthened by the journey they had travelled and hopeful for the future they were building. Not just for Chloe, but for a world that slowly but surely was beginning to change along with them. The sky over London darkened ominously, as if sensing the storm that was about to break over the Cavendish Empire. On the 50th floor of a glass and steel skyscraper, Elizabeth Cavendish and Maxwell Blackwood clinked champagne glasses, their cold smiles reflecting the flash of lightning outside. "It's done," Elizabeth declared, her voice laced with malicious satisfaction. "The board has called an emergency meeting. William won't know what hit him." Maxwell nodded, his eyes gleaming with barely contained ambition. "Excellent. With the accusations of mismanagement and the rumors about his excessive spending on philanthropic projects, the board will have no choice but to remove him." While the conspiracy unfolded in the Heights, William Cavendish faced his own tempest on the ground floor of Cavendish Industries. Surrounded by a team of lawyers and panicked executives, he struggled to understand the sudden turn of events. "How did this happen?" he demanded, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "Our numbers were solid. The sustainable projects were generating profit." Sarah, his loyal assistant, rushed into the conference room. "Mr. Cavendish, your wife is on the phone." "She says it's urgent." William grabbed the phone, his face softening instantly at the sound of Amelia's voice. "Amelia, darling, this isn't a good time." "William, listen," Amelia interrupted, her voice firm and resolute. "I know what's happening. Elizabeth is behind this, I'm sure of it. But we have a chance to turn this around." As Amelia explained her plan, William's eyes widened with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You're brilliant," he murmured. "Absolutely brilliant." Hours later, the Cavendish Industries boardroom was packed. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Elizabeth, seated strategically near the head of the table, could barely contain her triumphant smirk. William entered, his calm demeanor surprising everyone. Behind him, to the general shock, came Amelia, carrying a stack of folders and a tablet. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," William began, his voice steady and confident, "before we make any rash decisions, I'd like to present some data that I believe is crucial to the future of Cavendish Industries." Amelia stepped forward, projecting graphs and figures onto the large screen. "Over the past 3 years," she explained, her voice clear and professional, "the sustainable projects initiated by William have not only recouped their initial investment, but are generating a 30% higher return than our traditional divisions." A murmur rippled through the room. Elizabeth shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Amelia continued, revealing a series of innovative partnerships and pending patents that promise to revolutionize not just Cavendish Industries, but entire industries. With each new revelation, the board's initial skepticism gave way to growing interest. "And finally," William concluded, "I'd like to introduce our newest project." The doors opened, and to everyone's surprise, Chloe entered, accompanied by a group of children from diverse backgrounds. They were all wearing T-shirts with the logo of the Cavendish Foundation for Sustainable Education. "This," William said, his voice thick with emotion, "is the true future of Cavendish Industries. Not just profits, but a real and lasting impact on the world." Chloe stepped forward, her small figure radiating a surprising confidence for her 5 years. "My daddy and mummy taught me that we can do business and do good at the same time," she said, her voice clear and articulate. "Isn't that what we all want for the future?" The silence that followed was broken by hesitant applause, which soon swelled into a standing ovation. Elizabeth, realizing that her scheme was falling apart, discreetly slipped out of the room. In the weeks that followed, The Cavendish story dominated the headlines, but not in the way Elizabeth and Maxwell had planned. Images of Chloe and her friends from the foundation circulated globally, becoming a symbol of hope and change. "Billionaire reinvents business with help of wife and prodigy daughter," proclaimed the Financial Times. "The Cavendish family, the new face of conscious capitalism," declared Forbes. However, not all the press was positive. Skeptics still questioned the sustainability of William's business model, while others accused the family of using Chloe as a marketing ploy. In an interview with the BBC, Amelia addressed these criticisms head-on. "We understand the skepticism," she said, her demeanor confident yet compassionate. "Change is never easy, but we invite everyone to take a closer look at what we're doing. The results speak for themselves." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Elizabeth and Maxwell plotted their next move. "This isn't over," Elizabeth hissed into the phone. "They may have won this battle, but the war is far from over." Back at Cavendish Manor, William, Amelia, and Chloe enjoyed a rare moment of tranquility. Watching the sunset in the garden, William reflected on the incredible journey they had taken. "You know," he said softly to Amelia, "when I found you that Christmas Eve, I never imagined we'd be here." Amelia smiled, intertwining her fingers with his. "Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it?" Chloe, playing nearby, looked up. "Daddy, Mummy, look, a shooting star." As the three made a silent wish, the sky briefly lit up. The storm had passed, but on the horizon dark clouds still lingered. The Cavendish family had weathered their greatest challenge yet, but the future, as always, remained uncertain. One thing, however, was clear. Together, they were ready to face any storm that came their way. The sun had barely risen when Amelia Cavendish received a phone call that would change everything. Sarah, William's assistant, was breathless on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Cavendish, I've found something big. You need to see this immediately." Hours later, Amelia sat in a discreet cafe in central London, poring over a folder of documents Sarah had secretly delivered. With each page she turned, her face grew paler. "My God," she murmured, her heart pounding. There, in black and white, was irrefutable proof of Elizabeth and Maxwell's conspiracy against William and Cavendish Industries. Emails, bank transfers, secret meetings, all meticulously documented. The plan was more sinister than Amelia could have imagined. It wasn't just about removing William from the company. It was about completely destroying the Cavendish legacy and absorbing its assets into an elaborate scheme. Amelia knew she had to act fast, but exposing Elizabeth and Maxwell directly could be catastrophic for the company. She needed a smarter play, something that would not only save Cavendish Industries, but also solidify its position as a leader in sustainable innovation. That's when the idea struck her like a bolt of lightning. Meanwhile, at Cavendish Manor, William was playing with Chloe in the garden, oblivious to the approaching storm. Chloe, now 6 years old, was excitedly describing her new school project on ecosystems. "Daddy, what if we could make houses that worked like forests?" Chloe asked, her eyes shining with excitement. William smiled, marveling at his daughter's imagination. "That would be amazing, sweetheart. Maybe one day we can do something like that." Little did he know that Chloe's innocent words would be the seed of something revolutionary. Weeks passed, and Amelia worked tirelessly behind the scenes, secret meetings with architects, environmental engineers, and community leaders. Sleepless nights developing plans and proposals, all while maintaining a calm smile for the outside world. Finally, the day arrived. Amelia called a surprise press conference at the Cavendish Industries headquarters. The room was packed with journalists, investors, and, of course, Elizabeth and Maxwell, who watched with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Amelia stepped up to the podium, her confident posture masking the turmoil of emotions within. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady, "today, Cavendish Industries is proud to announce our most ambitious project yet, Eco-Harmony." The screens behind her lit up with renderings of a futuristic housing complex. Green buildings draped in vegetation, integrated renewable energy systems, and entire communities designed to function in perfect harmony with nature. Eco-Harmony isn't just a housing project, Amelia continued, her voice gaining momentum. It's a revolution in the way we live, work, and interact with our planet. As she detailed the project, the faces in the room shifted from surprise to fascination. Amelia explained how eco-harmony would not only provide sustainable housing for thousands, but also generate jobs, boost the local economy, and establish Cavendish Industries as the undisputed leader in green technology. William, sitting in the front row, gazed at his wife with a mixture of pride and awe. He had no idea she had been working on something so grand. When Amelia finished her presentation, the room erupted in applause. Journalists jostled to ask questions, investors made frantic phone calls, and even the most hardened skeptics seemed impressed. Elizabeth and Maxwell, however, were livid. Their plan to discredit William and Cavendish Industries had been completely overshadowed by this brilliant move. But Amelia wasn't finished. With a serene smile, she made one final announcement. And to officially launch the Eco-Harmony project, I'd like to invite someone very special to say a few words. My daughter, Chloe Cavendish. A murmur of surprise rippled through the room as Chloe, dressed in a small green suit, walked onto the stage. Her small figure barely reached the microphone, but her eyes shone with an intelligence and maturity beyond her years. "Hello, everyone," Chloe began, her voice clear and confident. "When I was younger, I asked my daddy if we could make houses that worked like forests. Today, I see that dream becoming a reality." The room fell silent, every person present captivated by the young girl's words. "Eco-harmony isn't just about building houses," Chloe continued. "It's about building a future where people and the planet can thrive together, where every child can grow up breathing clean air, drinking pure water, and dreaming of a better tomorrow." Tears glistened in the eyes of many in the audience. Journalists who had come skeptical now struggled to maintain their professional composure. "My parents taught me that we can make a difference no matter how small we are," Chloe concluded. "Eco-harmony is proof of that. It's a small step for Cavendish Industries, but a giant leap for our planet. Thank you." The ensuing ovation was deafening. William and Amelia rushed to embrace their daughter, creating an image of familial unity that would be splashed across newspapers and magazines around the world in the days to come. Backstage, Elizabeth frantically tried to contain the damage. She pulled Maxwell aside, hissing furiously, "Do something! Call our media contacts! Discredit this somehow!" But it was too late. The tide of public opinion had turned decisively. In the following weeks, Cavendish Industries' stock soared. Mayors and governors across the country clamored to have the Eco-Harmony project come to their cities. Environmentalists hailed the initiative as a game-changer in the fight against climate change. The society that had once laughed at the billionaire and the homeless woman now looked upon the Cavendish family with a mixture of admiration and awe. Talk show hosts, business magazines, and even world leaders clamored for a chance to speak with William, Amelia, and young Chloe. On a quiet evening, weeks after the announcement that changed everything, the Cavendish family gathered in their living room. William looked at Amelia, his eyes shining with love and gratitude. "You saved everything," he said softly. "And not just the company, but our family, our legacy. How can I ever begin to thank you?" Amelia smiled, intertwining her fingers with his. "We did it together, William. You, me, and our amazing daughter." Chloe, who was sketching new designs for tree houses in her notebook, looked up and smiled. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "I think this is just the beginning. Imagine what else we can do." William and Amelia exchanged a look, recognizing the truth in their daughter's words. This wasn't the end of their journey, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter filled with promise, challenges, and the opportunity to truly change the world. And as night fell over the city, the Cavendish family, once the subject of scandal and ridicule, now represented hope for a brighter future. A hope born from the unlikely love between a billionaire and a woman he found on the street one cold Christmas Eve so many years ago. The lights of London twinkled like earthly stars against the night sky, but none shone brighter than those illuminating the Metropolitan Museum of Art on this special evening. It was the night of the Grand Hawthorne Charity Gala, an event marking 7 years since the fateful meeting between Charles Hawthorne and Emma Winters on a cold Christmas Eve. Note, I retained the original surname here, Hawthorne, as it's tied to the name of the foundation, and gala, which would be awkward to change at this late point in the narrative. The museum's main hall had been transformed into a dazzling oasis of sustainability and elegance. Chandeliers crafted from recycled materials cast a soft glow upon the guests, all dressed in gala attire created by Emma's sustainable line, Eco-Chic. The crème de la crème of society, celebrities, world leaders, and philanthropists mingled, creating a buzz of anticipation. Amelia, resplendent in an emerald green gown made of recycled fabrics, held William's hand as they circulated through the hall. Her hair, once dulled by life on the streets, now shone with health, framing a face that radiated confidence and purpose. William, in turn, displayed an equally remarkable transformation. Gone was the arrogant playboy of years past. In his place stood a man whose eyes sparkled with passion and determination, his impeccable tuxedo contrasting with the golden leaf brooch on his lapel, the symbol of the Hawthorne Foundation. "It's almost time," William murmured to Amelia, squeezing her hand gently. Amelia nodded, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "Where's Chloe?" As if summoned by thought, Chloe emerged from the crowd. At 12 years old, she was a vision of grace and precocious intelligence. Her dress, a miniature version of her mother's, was her own creation, a project she had insisted on designing herself for the occasion. "So I'm ready," Chloe said, her voice calm but her eyes shining with the same intensity as her parents'. The sound of cutlery clinking against crystal glasses silenced the crowd. All eyes turned towards the small stage where the Cavendish family now stood. William stepped forward, his voice resonating through the hall. "Good evening, everyone. 7 years ago, on a night like this, my life changed forever." A murmur went through the audience. Everyone knew the story, of course. It had become almost legendary over the years. "That night," William continued, "I found not only the love of my life, but also a greater purpose." "Amelia," he turned to his wife, his eyes shining with emotion, "you showed me a world I barely knew existed, and together we decided to make a difference." Amelia stepped forward, taking the microphone. What began as a chance encounter has become a journey of self-discovery and change. Today, we're here not just to celebrate how much we've grown, but to announce the next chapter in that journey. The silence was palpable, the tension building in the air. "It is with great joy," Amelia announced, her voice firm, "that William and I introduce the Hawthorne Foundation for Equality and Sustainability. With an initial endowment of $10 billion, our mission is to combat global poverty through sustainable and innovative solutions." The room erupted in applause and gasps of surprise. $10 billion was an unprecedented sum for a private foundation. William resumed speaking, his voice thick with emotion. "But that's not all. The true driving force behind this foundation, the brilliant mind that inspired us to dream even bigger, is someone very special." With that, Chloe stepped forward. The room collectively held its breath. "Hello, everyone," Chloe began, her young voice surprisingly articulate. "My name is Chloe Hawthorne, and at 12 years old I'm honored to be named the Junior Director of Innovation for the Hawthorne Foundation." A murmur of astonishment rippled through the crowd. Chloe continued, unfazed. "For the past few years, I've been working on a project that I believe can revolutionize the way we address poverty and sustainability. We call it Project Phoenix." With a gesture from Chloe, the screens behind her came to life, displaying images of entire communities being transformed. Slums became sustainable neighborhoods, deserts bloomed with hydroponic farms, and children around the world gained access to cutting-edge education through innovative technology. Project Phoenix isn't just about giving people what they need, Chloe explained, her voice gaining confidence. It's about empowering them to build their own sustainable futures. It's about transforming entire communities into incubators of innovation and positive change. The audience was completely silent, many with tears in their eyes, others with jaws agape in admiration. Amelia and William watched their daughter with uncontainable pride. Chloe wasn't just a child prodigy, she was the embodiment of everything they had strived to achieve. When Chloe finished her presentation, the room erupted in a standing ovation that seemed to have no end. Celebrities wept openly. Billionaires reached for their phones to make immediate donations, and world leaders scrambled to schedule meetings with the young visionary. Elizabeth Hawthorne, watching from a secluded corner, felt a mixture of emotions she couldn't name. Shame for her past actions, regret for underestimating Amelia, and surprisingly a touch of pride for her niece. Quietly, she left the hall, knowing it was time to re-evaluate her own life choices. As the evening progressed, it became clear to everyone present that they were witnessing not just an event, but a historical moment. The family that had once been the subject of scandal and ridicule was now redefining the meaning of philanthropy and social responsibility. Journalists raced to their laptops, eager to be the first to report what would surely be the story of the year. From scandal to salvation, the incredible journey of the Hawthornes, Chloe Hawthorne, the youngest revolutionary of the century, how a Christmas Eve changed the world, the headlines practically wrote themselves. In the years that followed, the impact of the Hawthorne Foundation and Project Phoenix exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. Communities around the world were transformed, millions were lifted out of poverty, and a new generation of leaders in sustainability and social innovation was inspired. Amelia became an iconic figure in the world of sustainable fashion and social entrepreneurship, proving that it's possible to balance commercial success with positive impact. William revolutionized the corporate world, demonstrating that businesses can thrive while prioritizing social and environmental responsibility. Chloe, as she grew older, continued to amaze the world with her revolutionary ideas. At 18, she became the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, recognized for her pioneering work in sustainable solutions for global conflicts. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Hawthornes was the shift in mindset they inspired. The story of Amelia and William, from a chance encounter on a cold night to a global force for change, became a symbol of hope and possibility. Schools taught about the Hawthornes as an example of how privilege can be used for the greater good. Young entrepreneurs cited Chloe as their inspiration for building businesses with purpose, and in far corners of the world, once forgotten communities flourished, each a living testament to the transformative power of one act of kindness. In an interview years later, when asked about the secret to her success, Amelia smiled softly and said, "It all started with a choice. The choice to see beyond appearances, to believe in each other's potential, and to never underestimate the impact a single action can have." And so, what began as a scandal became a legend, a story of love, redemption, and the incredible power of dreaming big and acting with compassion. The Hawthornes proved to the world that sometimes the greatest miracles begin on the coldest nights, and that a person's true legacy isn't measured by their wealth, but by the positive impact they leave on the world.